Hi, I'm Dave,
And I'm Paul.
and we're going to challenge you to transform your financial future through the principles of the most profitable business in the world, banking.
We believe everyone should be involved in two businesses, the business that you're in and the banking business. Everyday people can replicate what bankers have been doing for centuries to leverage capital and build wealth through private lending.
Join us as we uncover the truths about money, expose lies and myths, and flip conventional financial advice on its head. Here we go. Well, hey, welcome back. Hey, Paul, how was Jamaica Mountain?
Man, it was great. We were down there, celebrating my in-laws' 50th wedding anniversary, renewing their vows and stuff. And it was just great to be with the family and take some time off from work and get some sun. It was great. We scuba dove and it was awesome.
Scuba dove? Is that how you say it?
Scuba dove.
Scuba dive?
Well, we did some scuba diving.
Yeah.
But it was only once. So
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I've never been. I'm going to Florida next week for spring break. Get out of Minnesota, get some sun.
You going to the house?
No, we did that last year. That was awesome. But no, we're going to the east side, the East Coast, Fort Lauderdale area.
Nice.
So, yeah, well, all right, man, we got a lot to talk about. So this is an episode we've been wanting to put together for a while now. And we decided, let's do it now because it's a very important episode, especially for our military brothers and sisters. And this is going to be predominantly focused for military people. However, there are going to be some good things to glean and some parallels to a civilian as well, maybe approaching or nearing retirement. So, but this is especially for our military brothers and sisters, and we're going to talk about, the things that this show is all about, which is life insurance, and how to provide for yourself, how to create that wealth, and we'll talk about some different options that military personnel have when they near retirement and when they do retire, and kind of compare those with, hey, let's make sure we're asking all the right questions and look at the other options that are available out there. So why don't we start with our quick backgrounds? Maybe not everybody knows. So Paul, why don't you go ahead and tell us what's your background?
Sure. Yeah, I've been in the Army for almost 20 years. The wife and I will hit 20 years in May. I'm an Army aviation officer by trade. I flew Apaches for about 16 years from 2003 to 2018. And now I'm an IG working here in the DC area. My wife's an Army nurse, so we're a military family. Come from a military family. But yeah, been all over the place. Been to Korea, been to Iraq, Afghanistan, Jordan, Latvia, Poland, Germany, just all over the place. And then the States. I was in Texas a lot, so I like Texas. I was at Fort Hood and Fort Bliss for a long time. And then now Fort Knox, and then now, DC. So yeah, done a little bit of everything, and looking forward to hanging up my boots though here in a couple of years, and looking to what's next. Stop moving. Really, I'm looking forward to living in one place for the rest of my life.
That's very nice, and it's very underrated. So great, thanks for that. I'm also started my military career in 2003. Flew A-10s for the Air Force until about 2012, then did a 2-year stint as an air liaison officer in the Army, which is where I met you while we were both deployed to Afghanistan together. Sat next to each other for about 6 months in the planning cell. And then I got out completely in 2014. A couple of years later, decided to start my own business, become self-employed, and I needed health insurance. And frankly, that's the reason that I decided to get back in through the Air National Guard here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. But I love it. I love wearing the uniform once a month. I'm glad I don't do it 20 days a month. 2 to 3 days a month is perfect for me. I don't like to shave anymore, but I've got, a couple years left before I hit my 20. And so this is something that is on both of our minds, is retirement. So as we're in the military, of course, we all have what's called SGLI, Service Members Group Life Insurance, or Soldier Group Life Insurance, $400,000 of coverage, which sounds like a lot when you're a young lieutenant, newly married, maybe no kids and all that. But as you get older, you get a lot more assets and you get a larger family and a lot more people depending on you. 400,000 is not very much. So I think everybody listening who's in the military understands the SGLI. It's just term life insurance that when you leave the military, it it leaves also. You don't have it anymore. Right. So what are some of the options after military when it comes to life insurance?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of options, right? You could go the private route like we have, right, and have adequate. We prefer dividend paying whole life insurance in force upon retirement from the Army, and that's what I've been advocating for all the people in my own network. You could also do term coverage, right, which covers you just like your SGLI, right? It covers you for a period of time, 10, 20, 30-year term, generally speaking. Military members have an option of kind of converting their SGLI into something called Veterans Group Life Insurance, which is VGLI. That is, while you're young, not a terrible option. It's actually relatively cheap and, various, coverage amounts. However, upon that, what the government would call retirement age, when you get into your 60s, the premiums on those, Dave, absolutely skyrocket. When you look at, if you have a line that, the premiums are like this, it does this, you're pulling back.
And why would that be?
Because you're getting closer to death. That's why.
Right.
The risk of your dying. Works. That's right. The risk of your dying increases every year you get older, right? You're 1 year closer to what they call, natural death. So yeah, those premiums are going to skyrocket. And it works very similarly to universal life insurance, right? Because universal life is built on annual renewable term, not an appropriate product for infinite banking. So yeah, those premiums, guess what? You're going to end up having no insurance if you go the VGLI route because nobody's writing that check, Dave. No one's going to write that check for that premium.
Right. Good point. So when you start your retirement paperwork and the military is going to make you go through TAPS. Is that what it's still called? So
yeah, we call it SFL TAP, I think, in the Army. Soldier for Life. Anyway.
Okay. So they make you go through this program. Yeah. And it's a great thing that they make you do to consider all these retirement options and what are your benefits, and then what are your prospects on the outside, joining the real world, so to speak. And one of the things they always bring up and they put in front of you and show you what's called the survivor benefit plan. And if anybody's in the retirement age bracket or going through that right now, you know what SBP is. And in general, SBP is like an annuity for your surviving spouse should you predecease them, right? And what that does is because when you retire after 20 years at least of military service, you get that active duty retirement pay. And when you're in the Guard, I'll hit my retirement pension will start when I'm 59 and a half, something like that. And I start getting that pension. Well, if I start getting that pension and then I die, that pension stops. So my surviving spouse, who's been depending on that, maybe we've both been depending on that, it stops for her as well. Now, the survivor benefit plan offers you can pay into it every single month during retirement, up to 6.5% of your chosen base amount that you decide on. And if you predecease your spouse will continue to receive roughly half of what you were receiving in retirement. So I think we did the math, Paul. So why don't you break that down for us? What does that really equal?
Yeah, so I'm going to use my current rank. I'm a lieutenant colonel. I'll retire as a lieutenant colonel. If I were to retire at 20 years, we pulled these numbers today. I should say Dave pulled these numbers today. He's so conscientious. So at 6.5% of your pension for a lieutenant colonel at 20 years, it's roughly $4,900 a month in retirement that you'd be getting in pension. Your cost for your SBP program, if you wanted the max benefit for your surviving spouse, would be $318 a month or $3,822 a year. Upon your death, if you predecease your surviving spouse, your spouse will get roughly $2,695 a month, $2,695 a month upon your death. Now, something for perspective, is that lifestyle you're living right now with that lieutenant colonel pay and the BAH and all that stuff, is $2,695 an adequate amount of money to sustain life?
Right. Absolutely not. That's comes out to roughly probably 20 to 25% of your gross pay right now. So, and we can, you can relate this to, any rank, anybody retiring, maybe an enlisted retiree who's making maybe 50 to 60% of what that O5 would be making roughly
Sure.
in retirement. So now, you just take what you're making at retirement age on active duty and divide it by 5. And that's approximately what that payout will be for your surviving spouse. Right. So what else do you have in place? Because that SBP is not going to, it provides something, right? Depending on your rank, it might be a car payment, it might be a house payment, and help out with the kids' college tuition or something like that. But you're going to have income coming in from somewhere else. So,
yep.
What are those other options, and where is that income coming from?
And we're going to have a link in the show notes where you can go read about it from the source. But there's even a blurb in there, Dave, right, that says, hey, basically this may not be enough for you to survive on, essentially.
You think?
Is what it's telling you. And it's kind of a foot stomp, right? It's telling you, hey, this will be a great supplement. It's guaranteed. It'll come in every month. And the peace of mind and the guarantee is definitely nice, right? That has value for sure. However, let's face it, it's not designed, kind of like Social Security, right? It's not designed to live off. It's designed to supplement. So that's kind of the overall point, folks, that we're trying to make.
Right. And I think that holds true for just your retirement pension in the first place. That's not going to be enough to live off of. With any style of standard of living that you're accustomed to, you will not be able to live off that 50% of your base pay right now going forward. So, well, cool, yeah. So we will have some notes in there, some links so you guys can read up on that, and just something to keep in mind. Make sure you're asking the right questions and you're looking at it from every possible angle, not just taking the standard line that's fed to you during the retirement TAPS program you have to go through. People have the best intentions when they're talking to you about it, but just realize you got to have something else in place. So that's kind of where we come in, and some things that we've done for ourselves and several of our clients, because we have a lot of military clients between the two of us, right? That's just our network. So we, Paul and I have multiple specially designed whole life insurance policies. So, using the infinite banking concept to not only provide that death benefit and that life insurance when we do retire from this earth, so that our family is taken care of, and our family is going to be multimillionaires when we die, and not only that, but building another asset that we can use today while we're alive. So, I've got a great story, case study on one of my clients who he contacted me a couple years ago. He's about 3 or 4 years out from retirement. He's an Air Force pilot, so he gets that $30,000 bonus every year. Something like, I think he nets like $27,000 a year in that bonus.
Is it 30 now? I thought it used to be.
It might
25.
be 35, man. They were throwing 25 at me when it was available for me, and I turned it down.
The story is like that. Supposedly, Army guys are supposed to get that too. It's like written into law, but we don't get that.
Well, it all comes down to how economy operates and what is your replacement cost as an Army officer. It must be far less than the replacement cost of an Air Force pilot. Just saying, I don't know, but
yeah, it very well may be. It very well may be.
Yeah. But, it's needs. It's supply and demand. Right now, a huge demand for Air Force pilots. And guess what? Those pilots can retire, walk across the street, get hired by Delta, United, Southwest, American, and start making bank, and have a wonderful lifestyle, really. Living at home in the same place, making a lot more money, and not putting up with anything else. Just fly. That's all you do. So anyway, where was I with that? So my client, he had a goal. He wanted, when he retires at 20 years, he wants $100,000 of cash available to make that transition happen. Should he go an extended period of time without a job, he doesn't want to put his family in any kind of situation where, they're not financially secure. So we put a plan in place where he took, and we'll get into bonuses here, he took his flying bonus, and instead of spending it on a new car or a Disney vacation or a new fun toy every single year and just blowing it, he funds an annual premium for his specially designed whole life policy that is building up very rapidly and will absolutely guarantee that he has 6 figures of capital available when he retires to do that transition or whatever he maybe wants to start a business. And not only that, it also equates to about half of his pension. So now he's already got a plan. He's got those pension dollars marked for a job. And that job is not going to be to live off of that pension. I think too many guys try to live off that pension. And it's like, man, that's for retirement. You're still in your prime earning and production years. You need to go out and get your market value. So that's what his plan is. So he's got somewhere to put that pension every single month, and only half of it. But if he wants to put all of it, we'll just start another policy for him. So I thought that was a great one that I like to replicate with clients. And there's been more than one of those who decided to do the same thing. Such a brilliant thing to do.
Yeah, I love that, man. I've got an Air Force buddy from college up in Alaska that is a great client. And in fact, we're doing a policy on his wife right now. But yeah, he puts that entire bonus and a little bit more in premium every year because he gets it, right? He understands that he has a need for death benefit. He's got little kids, and that he has a need for capital as well as the years tick by. So yeah, powerful. But the point you made about, I think too many military officers and everyone that retires from the military, doesn't matter what their rank is, but they use that pension to supplement their next job's income. So they take less salary in their follow-on civilian job. And I just think that's a huge mistake because you have value, right? You have 20 years plus of leadership experience, combat experience, whatever your experiences are, managerial. And that has a lot of value. So don't undercut yourself in your next job search. I don't even count like your client. Our pensions are already earmarked for premium every year. Internal income, pensions, premium. Not going to touch it ever.
Yep.
So yeah, super. That's awesome.
And should have no bearing on how much you make as a civilian. There are companies out there that will try to short you, that will say, well, we know this guy's making 50 grand a year, so we only need to pay him 100 to maintain the lifestyle he had in the Army. No, forget that, man. That 50 grand, you earn that. You earn that with blood, sweat, tears, and a whole lot more. That is yours, and that's for nobody else to leverage but you. So guys and gals really need to understand their value. And like you said, the leadership, your leadership experience is the number one thing companies are looking for, because these corporate companies cannot teach leadership to their people. They can teach you. I mean, I went to a medical device company as a quality and compliance program manager. No experience in medical device, but they wanted me for my leadership. They could teach me all the rest, right?
Because let's face it, your 4-year undergrad or even master's program folks, they're not being taught leadership in college now. They're being taught, well, I'm not really sure what they're being taught, but Keynesian economics and some other crap.
Yeah, and how to become offended and go to a safe room. How to find the safe room. The exits are here and here. Your safe room's over there if somebody offends you. Yeah, some generation. Well, how else can people fund a premium? So, pilots get that bonus in the Air Force. What other kind of bonuses or extra pay can people put towards this?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's all kinds of bonus. Your medical professionals and all the services get big bonuses. Nurses, doctors, those types of folks get bonuses as well. There's, I've discovered this, Dave. I have a lot of clients, military clients, that kind of give the middle finger to the thrift savings plan. Nothing against it, but the 401k type plan. And we're just stacking capital in savings accounts. And I was like, well, hey, good for you. You maintain control of that capital, but let's put it in a place that's going to be a lot more beneficial to you than a savings account, right? Because savings accounts have, let's face it, they have no value, right? They don't pay any interest.
They have negative value.
Yeah, they have literally negative value, right?
Yeah.
And then the banks are taking that money and lending it out to you and me, right? And charging us an arm and a leg for it. So yeah.
Well, they're not lending it out to you and me because we have capital from our own banks. But yeah, I know what you mean. But
you and me as like a,
yeah, exactly.
audience, right?
Us Americans.
Americans. Right.
Yeah. What about deployments? I know when I was working on an Army post for 2 years, I saw a lot of Mustangs, a lot of Dodge Challengers, and a lot of Ford Raptors driven by Sergeant Snuffy and, little private.
Oh, they love to do
Paul.
that. You got to go buy a WRX or an Evo or an Audi or, whatever you're going to go. A Mustang, fairly common. Of course.
Yeah.
The money leaves their hand as soon as they get it. Right. And it's a shame. But yeah.
So if there were older, the older generations who've been around a while, if they could just impress on these younger kids, play it smart, man. Put that money away, sacrifice a little bit. Don't leave your local girlfriend a general power of attorney when you deploy. Like, keep that money under your control, put it somewhere smart. And man, these guys they'd be balling by the time they hit retirement.
No question. And what Dave's talking about, folks, right, when we've talked about it on past episodes, is when you put that money in a place that you control, i.e. dividend paying whole life insurance, you, one, still have access to the cash, and two, you never interrupt compounding even when you use that cash. So over time, it just keeps stacking and stacking.
Right.
So,
yep.
Yeah,
it's the only place you can get true uninterrupted compound growth that I'm aware of.
Right. No, I mean, I can't think of another one either. There might be one out there, but
yeah,
not like this. Not that's private. That's for sure.
Right. Another place where I ended up saving a lot of money. You said you lived overseas and you traveled all over. I lived in Korea for 1 year and Germany for 3 years, and I stacked a lot of cash away in the bank. I think when I came home from Germany, I had maybe $70,000 or $80,000 because of COLA, the cost of living allowance. It was like an extra $1,000 a month at least that I wouldn't have been receiving stateside. And that's supposed to make up for, the higher costs of everything in Europe and all that. But if you shop on base, but you can get out of the VAT, if you, you don't have to pay that VAT. If you have the proper documentation, you get fuel coupons, so you don't have to pay European prices for fuel, shop at the commissary and all that, tax free. So you can bank a lot of money.
That's right.
So, but what do most people do when they come back from Germany?
Well, they're going to buy that. They're going to ship that they're going to buy a BMW, an Audi, or a Mercedes. They're going to drive it over there for a week, and then they're going to ship it overseas, pick it up in Atlanta, and I got my new car and I got it cheap. But yeah, you're right. They're going to spend that money, or they're spending it on travel.
Yeah, which at least travel, at least those memories appreciate that BMW that they buy because, well, I can't pass it up because I'm saving so much money. Because you actually get some kind of tax that you don't pay the taxes or something on it over there. That depreciates. At least the travel, those memories appreciate. So yeah. But you're right. And there's ways to travel cheaper. But I think I slept my oldest son. He was the only baby we had at the time, and he slept in a suitcase on the floor next to the bed because those hotels in Europe are tiny.
They're tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah. No question.
Yeah. Yeah, but we get off topic. So, for those military personnel who think, I feel like a lot of people, okay, actually, let me make this point. This just came to mind. So I had a commander, probably my favorite commander during my time, flying the A-10, deployed with him. And I'm still really good friends with him today. We talk, catch up every couple months. He once told me, you always got to have a go to hell fund. Now, what does that mean? Even in the military, if the last 2 years have taught us anything, you need to have a go to hell fund. So you can tell your boss, your employer, whoever it is that is trying to make you do something you don't want to do, you can say go to hell because I've got capital that I can survive on while I make a transition to go do something else. It allows you to make decisions from a position of strength. And man, the last 2 years have totally proven that, where so many people, because they weren't set up, like your financial house is so important, because they didn't have that financial security in place already, they were strong armed into doing things that a lot of them didn't want to do. And, it's a sad thing.
I know what you're talking about too.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of them are still fighting. I'm talking to a guy who he's being forced to retire. Thankfully, he's at that retirement period where he can. But great guy, fantastic officer, wonderful pilot, a huge Air Force asset. But because he didn't want to do something that they said he had to do, he's like, I'm good. We'll see you later. So I think he's set himself up well.
I think that's powerful. And that's kind of how Tammy and I have been treating this the last couple of years as we've gone from, being the traditional person piling money in TSP and piling money into IRAs. Now I'm piling money into our dividend paying whole life insurance contracts, 6 of them now. And guess what? As retirement looms, having access to multiple 6 figures of cash to build that retirement home, to maybe just take a few months off from the next job or something, to travel around the country, it puts you in a totally different position, like you said, a position of strength. Because let's face it, we both know people that are like, hey, I'm just sticking around. I've hit my 20. I'm sticking around to pad that retirement because they don't have all their money's in TSP, all their money's in an IRA, all their money's somewhere separated from their control without penalty. So they don't really have any other options. So they just keep padding that retirement like, oh, look, if I stay for 28 years, my retirement will be this. And that's, hey, to each his own. I'm not trying to disparage anybody, even though it kind of just sounded like I did, but I have very strong opinions about this. It makes zero economic sense if you're going to retire, let's say as a lieutenant colonel, sergeant first class, master sergeant, whatever, to do a day over 20 years. Unless if you enjoy it, the intangibles, you enjoy the service, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about economically speaking, from a numbers perspective. It makes no sense to do one day over 20. And of course, I'm going to end up with 22 and change. Fine. It doesn't matter. But I'm not doing it to pad my retirement. I'm doing it because I have to, right? Does that make sense?
Well, and why don't you explain why it does not make sense?
Right. So it's kind of like the Social Security debate. Do I take it at 62 or do I take it at 70 or whatever? So time value of money, right?
Yep.
If you start drawing that pension now, right, at year 20, you retire, you start drawing the pension next month, right? That money that you're drawing now has a lot more value now than not drawing it for another 8 years or 6 years or 4 years.
Right. On
top of that, you're going to have unless you've done extremely, extremely well, and you've got millions of dollars saved up after a 20-year career, which most people don't. Getting that second income from your now civilian job, your second career from age, let's say 42 to age 62 or whatever, getting that money coming in now, right, with your pension has enormous value. Way more value than just getting a few more percentage points on that pension. You get whatever, another 2.5% a year or whatever it is, for every year over 20. So just economically not worth it. Unless you have different goals. And that's not just from an economic perspective. Yep,
you're right. You're right. In fact, a lot of pilots in the Air Force, they understand that because they know, like, at 20 years, I'm out. I'm going to go fly for the airlines because guess what? I could stay for another 3 or 4 or 5 years in the Air Force and pad my retirement. But that's 3, 4, 5 years of seniority they're losing out on in the airlines. And frankly, a lot more money out there. So not everybody has that opportunity. I get it, but everybody is employable on the outside. Let's just say that everybody is. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So you brought up TSP, and when people are approaching retirement, what are some options that people have with that TSP?
Well, yeah. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah, tell us.
Just because I have some of this knowledge. And so several years ago, 2017, just started move my money from one IRA custodian, right, or whatever, into a self-directed IRA custodian, right? So some people, you can Google this. People will leave some show notes about the self-directed IRA. So what a self-directed IRA allows you to do, right, is control kind of where that retirement account's qualified money is put, right? Private lending, real estate, whatever. So when you retire from the military, you can roll your TSP. It's called a rollover, right? You can roll over your TSP. There's no penalties. There's no taxes involved. It goes from one custodian, the TSP, which is BlackRock, by the way, into a self-directed custodian. And there's several of them in the United States that do this. So you can take that money from the TSP, roll it over penalty free into your self-directed IRA account. Traditional TSP money becomes traditional IRA money. So Roth TSP becomes Roth IRA money, right? And then you can direct those funds into maybe a real estate. There's a rental property you want to buy or whatever. But you can use those funds you've built up in the TSP to invest in other things, right?
Right, through private lending is really what you're talking about, which is what you and I do pretty much exclusively. Is with our wealth building capital is private lending. I mean, you could purchase real estate outright, so that'd be investing, or you can lend to people like we do.
Yep, and that's what I did. Right, I played bank.
Yep.
With you, I gave my first private loan to you and Steve, and that was in the end of 2017 or beginning of 2017, actually, and haven't looked back since. And
you probably wouldn't make that kind of loan again today, right? Because there was nothing backing that up except me and Steven. That was an unsecured loan.
It was.
So a lot riskier. But now you're actually making better returns.
Really risky for 12%.
Did I pay you 12? I thought it was only 10.
No,
yeah,
12.
But yeah, it was. And you're making, we're both making much better returns than that now on our private lending with a lot of security, collateral, and risk mitigation pieces in place, right? So
I have a lien on on two properties right now for a private loan that I just did last week. Repeat customer. It's my third private loan to him. So yeah, nice. And it's a good return.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you have capital, opportunity will find you.
Can't harp on that enough. No. And until you're doing it, Dave, though, not to get sidetracked, but until you're doing that, like that, it's so true. It's theoretical until you start doing it and you're like, wow, that's a legitimate statement. And there's nothing closer to the truth than that statement. It truly is. So all you need is the right network. And that could be one person.
Yep. Who, not how. Just read that book. So find out who's doing this, who knows what you want to know, and make contact with them and get going. So cool. We're happy to be anybody's who when they want to learn more about, infinite banking, private lending, anything like that. Yep. So I think we covered a lot today. I hope this has been really helpful for our military brothers and sisters. God bless you all. Keep doing the good work. Stay safe. And you got any other closing words, Paul?
I don't have any parting shots. I'm not going to say no. I think these are the folks who we owe a lot to. We want to take care of them. We are them. Our friends are them. Our families have been them. So. It's an important population to take care of. And again, don't be afraid to explore alternate sources of knowledge, right? Infinite banking, private lending, the self-directed IRA. If you have IRA money, these are all tools for your kit bag that will enhance for sure what you can do with your capital.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks everybody. And we'll catch you next week. Cheers.
See you, Dave. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. If you'd like to have a conversation with us to see how you can become your own banker, or if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to tackle on a future episode, please send us an email to davidandpaul@theibcguys.com.
And subscribe and leave us a review if you're on Apple. Follow and leave us a 5-star review if you're on Spotify. And please share this with your friends. We'll see you next week.